Hey everyone, this is Lana. I'm super excited to be here with all of you today for this week's live training session. And one of the things I'd love to hear from you guys is if you had 8 hours potentially, or some of 8 hours tonight to lucid dream, super vivid, no limitations, what is it you would like to do? This week, I want to touch on the topic of time. This is such a big topic. It's one of the main reasons that I hear from people about why they can't get their life in order because they don't have enough time. So this session, I'm going to go through 3 tips that are going to cover how to start speaking more time into existence, how to start properly prioritizing so that you do feel like you have more than enough time. And of course, I'm going to share a bit more on how you can access potentially an additional 30% of time with lucid dreaming and lucid living practices, and some of the things that I recommend that you do whilst you're lucid that maybe you don't yet have the time or the financial or even emotional resources for at the moment in the waking state. This includes myself as well. I think that during moments of stress, when I feel pressure, usually that ends up being in connection to timing. So I want to share a bit more in these tips about how you can have less stress, more time, more energy, more motivation in your world. And tip number 1 starts with a lucid language. Sometimes the things that we believe about time are simply connected to the words that we say and how we speak time into existence. Oftentimes you'll find that you tell yourself literally the words like, I don't have enough time. You've already decided that that's the case for you. Case closed. And I see this a lot with my students who are aiming to start up new practices. Meditation is a great example. It's one of those things that probably a lot of people, maybe yourself included, say that, I'd love to meditate every single day, but I just don't have enough time to get around to doing it. And we know that this isn't accurate, right? Maybe you don't have the space to fit in an hour meditation right now, but you do have the time to meditate for 1 minute a day, right? Probably. How about if you meditated for 1 minute a day, 10 times a day, or 2 minutes a day, 10 different segments throughout your day? Most people have 2 minutes to spare throughout the day that they would usually spend maybe scrolling online, just thinking, eating, doing that kind of stuff. And that would actually bring them to a total of 20 minutes of meditation a day, which is a pretty great practice, right? So tip number 1 is about really looking at what you say in connection to time, about the time that you have and the time that you don't have. So I'd like us to start switching that narrative for you today. The next time you find yourself saying, I don't have time, what would happen if instead you told yourself, I am a conscious creator and I can make all the time that I need. I know how to get things done with ease. One of my favorite things is getting a task done in less time than I initially think is needed. If you think that cleaning the house is going to take you 3 hours and you need a 3-hour block to get it all done, you can be sure that you'll spend that total 3 hours cleaning. However, if you tell yourself something like, I'm going to get the house cleaned in an hour, this concept applies the same to business. You tell yourself, I need 3 weeks to put this thing together. It will take you 3 weeks and you'll be able to do it for that 3 weeks of time. If you tell yourself, I'm going to get this done this week and block out only a week to do it, you might surprise yourself with how you get it done. Sometimes when things are piling up, I'll say, I'm gonna see how much I can get done or organized just in the next 10 minutes. Kind of like a challenge, right? And you know what? I always surprise myself with what I can actually do in that time. So I highly recommend you giving this a go yourself. The next time you're starting to feel like or tell yourself that you don't have time, switch over to speaking in a lucid language for yourself. Tell yourself about how much time you do have. Tell yourself about how much space that you have right now to get things done. Let yourself hear about how time is on your side. See if you can surprise yourself and change your attitude about the time that you do have and focus on that rather than keeping it as a focus on time as if it's escaping you. After all, it's in divine timing, right? There have been plenty of times where I began thinking there's not enough time, and there simply was. Oftentimes it starts with that perspective shift to just give yourself grace with that. Tip number 2 is what I call rocks, pebbles, and sand. The truth is that especially those of us who are creative people will have a never-ending list of ideas and different things that we want to do with our lives. This can be a cause of huge stress, especially for entrepreneurs, for big dreamers, people who have 1,000,001 things that they want to bring into creation. No matter how many things you get done, you are someone who is going to be able to think of 10 more things that you want to do. List some of those for me right now if you're someone who has 1,000,001 things on your to-do list. Let me know what some of them are, or simply just say yes if you understand what I'm talking about. You are never going to finish the projects on your current to-do list and say, oh, that's it, I'm good now, life complete. You're gonna come up with the next thing and the next thing. So the key is how to prioritize these things rather than just having a never-ending list where it feels like you've got 1,000,000 things to do. It's so unsatisfying, and it's such a stressful situation to feel like it's never ending and you can never get to those things. So what I want you to start switching this week for yourself is having a list of 1 to 3 things that you can actually get done. And I call these things my top priorities. They are what I define as my red rocks. Each night, as part of my evening routine, I decide on the top 3 priorities, just 3, for the next day. No matter how many things are actually on my calendar, no matter how many things are actually on my to-do list, I list out just the top 3. If I feel like I have a lot going on, I might only select the top 1 priority. And I set aside the exact time and the exact space the next day that I'm going to complete these 1 to 3 tasks, when and how they will get done. Then at those times, I do them. And everything else that's on my list for that day, everything else that's going on, you just let go of. This gives you the boost every day that you need to get your top 3 things done, and everything else you can just trust will fall into place in due time. Maybe 3 things doesn't sound like a lot to you. Maybe you're like, oh my God, if I'm only doing 3 things a day, like how am I gonna get everything done? But if you actually do those 3 things rather than having 1,000,000 things in your head of what you want to get done and maybe only doing 1 or not putting aside the time to actually get to those top 3 priorities, you'll realize that if you make the time to just do those top 3 things, not only do you get to check them off and feel good about your day, but that's over 1,000 top priorities that you get checked off your list and completed every single year. That's a lot of progress, right? So rather than giving yourself this never-ending list, decide today on your top 3 priorities, on your 3 red rocks. These are the non-negotiable things for a single day, and let yourself call the day a success when you get these 3 things done. Alongside the red rocks, you're gonna have the rest of your list, which is gonna be full of the pebbles, full of the sand. Pebbles are some of the things that might not be a top priority for you that day. They aren't rock solid. They're not in your top 1 to 3. They're not a non-negotiable, but maybe they need to get done that week so you can move them around or prioritize them for later in the week. And your sand is going to be the tasks that can get done whenever. They don't have a particular date or time or place, just some of those things that are non-urgent on your list. But do not be deceived about the mental energy that sand can consume for you. If you're someone who has tasks that stay on your to-do list for weeks and weeks and weeks, or maybe it's even months' time, recognize that these things are taking up your time and your mental energy, because even just the anxiety of having them on your list or wanting to make time for them in some sense, but also not wanting to make time for them in another sense. Today, I encourage you to cut out some of the sand. Just cut it off. If it's been on your list for 21 days or more, decide if you want to move it into a pebble. Decide if you can make it a rock and just get it done today. And if not, just delete it altogether so that you can just wipe it out. Just stop thinking about it. It's not worth the anxiety. It's not worth the time spent stressing over it all mentally. Just get rid of it. My third tip for this, mastering time management, it's about getting lucid dreaming. We spend a third of our lives sleeping and dreaming, and much of that time can be spent consciously active whilst you're lucid. If you're someone who doesn't have time to do the wellness stuff during the day, do it in your lucid dream. Spend hours and hours in sweet meditation whilst you sleep. Go get yourself a lucid massage from 1,000 angel hands and the gods whilst you're in your slumber. Go on that epic beach vacation, or spend some time just floating in the water on top of a whale, basking in the sunlight in the middle of the ocean. That's a personal favorite of mine, if you can't tell. But get some of those things done that will bring you that mental and emotional time and energy whilst you're lucid, so that you wake up feeling super motivated. We spend so much time on just starting out a process, right? Thinking about how to actually get something done, how to actually do it before we even start to do it. Great example of this, a common one, is if I told you, I want you to write a speech, or I want you to get started on that book that you've always wanted to write today, right? You would spend a considerable amount of time and energy not even writing. It would be just thinking, just sitting at your laptop, coming up with ideas. Maybe you get a playlist up, start listening to music, try and get in the mental flow, in the zone, creating a structure to get started with, jotting down different ideas, making a mental map, right? But if you got lucid, you can alter the time that something takes you. You can open up a book inside your lucid dream and literally see the entire first chapter that you haven't even written yet in the waking state. There, ready for you. You can practice writing out the first chapter in your lucid dream, or even speaking about the topic of that chapter or that book or that speech, whatever example fits for your life, through that whole thing with a dream character. And then when you wake up, you're ready just to write it all down. You've downloaded it, you've channeled it, it's already ready and waiting for you to go. And you're in that state of flow. And this is how my business expanded so quickly. If I had to sit and think about all the modules and all the material and all the content and all the information that I wanted to include in the Lucid Entrepreneur Lab, I'd still be doing it right now, like 3 years later down the line. It would have taken me months. It would have taken me absolute years and years of time. But instead, I was able to see the finished product in wholeness within my lucid dream state. So then I woke up and I just brought it all into conscious creation. I turned my living room into what looked like a crime scene, just writing it all down, getting it all in the space that I'd seen it come to life in my lucid dream. So the practice of lucidity truly has saved me so much time. It has created so much time, so much energy, and so much motivation for me, right? It's very rare that you'll have an incredible idea in your lucid dream, or have this amazing breakthrough, or envision how something works, how something comes together, have one of those breakthrough ideas, and just wake up the next day and be like, maybe I'll get to that another time, right? That doesn't happen. When we have a profound dream, when we go through a dream that moves us, that transforms us, we wake up with that energy, right? Ready to go, ready to get it out there and consciously create it into the world. And this can be the case for you too. So share with me, once again, if you're open to it, if you could have an additional 8 hours tonight, super vivid, to just consciously dream, what is it that you think you would like to spend more time on, more energy on? What would you do if you had that undistracted space to just maybe do inner work, maybe some outer work? Remember, in your lucid dream, you're also not limited by many of the just standard limitations of the waking state, right? You don't have to have a certain amount of money to have an experience. You don't have to feel tired. Maybe you feel tired at doing a 9 to 5 and you come home and you don't have the mental capacity to start working on some of these ideas. You don't need to take care of the kids in your lucid dream. You don't have to cook the dinner, do the laundry, clean the house. You don't even have to be bound by your standard own waking state blockages or fears or holdbacks or any of the mental stuff that comes up that tells you you're not good enough to start writing that book right now. You're not good enough to start teaching that incredible practice that you know is within you. None of that has to be in existence for you. It's a space where you can just really connect with God, with your higher self. You can reach those peak states of consciousness where you're just totally fearless, completely empowered, and you can start tapping into that kind of time space whilst you're lucid. So lucid dreaming is truly what I define as the most sacred time. If you aren't taking advantage of it, you are missing out. Anything that you find yourself procrastinating with, do it whilst you're lucid. Get over that hump of figuring out, how do I get started? What's it gonna look like within your lucid dream? This will completely shift your perspective on how you can get things done in the waking state, how it doesn't have to take you months and months of time and energy, how you can just wake up with that motivation, with the clear vision of how to make it manifest. So to recap, 1, start speaking about time using a lucid language. Notice when you're telling yourself, I don't have enough time, I don't have the energy for this, and start focusing on what you do have rather than zooming in on that perspective of what you don't have. 2 is get your rocks, pebbles, and sand in order today. Get rid of that never-ending list that keeps you in that cycle of feeling like you're never going to get it done, you're never going to have enough time or energy, and simply focus in on those 1 to 3 things every day, your top priorities, your non-negotiables that add up to over 1,000 achievements a year. And when you get those 3 things done in a day, celebrate yourself, let everything else go, and know that you are making the best progress you have in that 24 hours by hitting those top 3 priorities. And lastly, get lucid. Do it already. Start accessing that additional, potentially 30% more conscious time in the lucid dream space. Do the things that perhaps you don't have the time or the energy or the financial freedom yet for in the waking state whilst you're lucid. Work on what you procrastinate on in the waking state so that you can wake up in a state of clarity, motivation, energy, lucidity, and just flow. Start tapping into and taking advantage of that sacred time that you spend sleeping and look at how it can wake you up to your life and to so much more in your life. If you start working on just any of the above 3 tips that I shared in this training, even just for this week, you will start to experience time in a completely new way. You'll be in those states of flow, celebration, checking things off, getting things done, getting those dopamine hits of just results and completion and progress, rather than staying stuck in those states of stress. You'll start recognizing the true meaning of divine timing and how it's all going according to God's plan all of the time. So as always, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear how you do with everything that I've shared in this training. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune into this today. Don't just tune in and think these things sound great, but I'm not going to do them. Get started on them right now. If you don't have your top 3 priorities, type them into the chat right now. You know what they are. You know what the top 3 things, if you got them done today, would be the best thing for you. You know what that phrase is that comes into your mind or into your mouth when you're saying, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy. Learn what you're going to switch it to for this week, how you're going to reframe that for yourself. And you know what the best thing would be for you to start doing in the lucid dream state, whether that's catching a break and waking up feeling energized, doing the meditation that you can't get to during the day-to-day, or maybe working on some of those tasks that you procrastinate on and you don't know how to get started with, and starting on them whilst you're lucid. Leave me a comment. Let me know which tip that you would like to implement starting today and how you know that this is going to help you. If you feel like this kind of work will be helpful for you in beginning to live your best life, and if you'd love more lucid dreaming and lucid living tips and advice, send me a message on Facebook, DM me, or on Instagram or any of my other social media platforms saying dream time today, and I will take some time personally to share some more resources with you that are going to help you on this journey. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you the same time next week. Bye.
It is life-changing, both personally and professionally.
The process of really stepping into the next level of my entrepreneurship in ways that I hadn't even realized I was blocked, because the dream world reveals to you not only what's possible, but also what maybe is hidden.
But I've learned so much about how lucid dreams can benefit my future and my business, and it's been such an exciting adventure already, and I cannot wait to continue on.
I love the way she structured the course and how it's so clear and kind of step by step. So for a complete novice like me, who only really had a very vague idea of what lucid dreaming actually was, it felt really accessible.
I feel more focused on exactly where I want to go, and I am so grateful to be part of this course. It will change your life. It will change your mindset. It will give you tools you never knew you wanted. Like, it's seriously amazing.
But I have to say that Lana is an amazing teacher of the class, and I would suggest anybody taking it. It's definitely scholarly, like college level kind of course, and it's an 8-week program, so check it out.
Even if simply on a one-on-one basis in her dream coaching, I think that's extremely valuable.
If you are on the fence, if you are thinking about getting into your dream life, I suggest getting lucid with Lana.